Supreme Court will make final decision on transgender kids' access to gender-affirming care. In a move that will redefine the legal landscape for transgender rights in America, the U.S. Supreme Court announced this morning they would hear a case challenging Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. The case was brought by the Biden administration. Tennessee families and healthcare providers argues that the state's law is discriminatory and unconstitutional. The Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar, emphasized the urgent need for court intervention because of profound uncertainty faced by transgender adolescents and their families due to conflicting lower court decisions. 26 states have enacted laws banning healthcare access for transgender youth. Chase Strangio, the American Civil Liberties Union Deputy Director for Transgender Justice, said, quote, "The future of countless transgender youth in this future and in the future generations rests on this court adhering to the facts, the Constitution, and its own modern precedent. These bans represent a dangerous and discriminatory affront to the well-being of transgender youth across the country and their constitutional right to equal protection under the law," end quote. The law will be argued next fall, setting the stage on what will likely be a landmark moment for trans rights in America. I can't believe this happened this morning, and we had to add it to Queer News Tonight because of its importance. And so I quickly went on over to my dear friend ED at Pride Lines, Dr. Edward Summers, who sits at this table with us often. Mm-hmm. And he also deals with a lot of LGBTQ plus youth. Therapy, gender-affirming care, so many other things. And so he had this to say. The Supreme Court has a constitutional responsibility to protect the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of all Americans, including minors. These are principles outlined in our Declaration of Independence, a founding document of our democracy. My hope is that the Supreme Court will protect these unalienable rights of minors and allow for gender-affirming care. Our youth are our future. What do you kids think?
That's beautiful. I just wonder what exactly they're going to come up with next in terms of health care that they don't approve of. First abortion, now this. Are they going to make us stop having plastic surgery, or somebody's against having hysterectomies? Who knows what could be next if we go down this road? You know, this is health care.
This is health care. Yeah. This is health care. And, you know, today is actually the anniversary of Dobbs versus Jackson, which is the one that overturned Roe versus Wade. You know,
you're giving me chills.
It's creepy times, Yvonne. They're creepy times.
And what they're saying is that, you know, parents cannot, you know, make these medical decisions for their kids. You know, it's not something that, you know, a kid wakes up one day and says, oh, I'm the other gender. Yeah. You know, this is a long process. This is a psychological evaluations. This is a lot of, you know, for everybody to be comfortable with. And for parents to make that decision for their kids, that's up to them. So for anybody to step in and just say that, you know, it's just wrong. Yeah.
Well, and the right-wing rhetoric, like these people think that we go into elementary schools and change the gender on people. You know what I mean? Like they really have just crazy notions about our community. You know, gender-affirming care is one thing. The surgeries that they might want to get are usually after 18, are usually after puberty, you know, and that's something that someone at 18 years old has the right to make those decisions, you know, but how are you going to, just like men are making decisions over my reproductive rights as a woman, you're not allowing a mother to make their rights to be able to take care of their own child.
Right.
You know, like you said, a kid doesn't wake up one day and say, I just don't want to be a girl one day. You know, it doesn't work that way. The parent sees their child suffering. Yeah. It takes, you know, I've heard of parents where they know at 4 or 5 years old that their kid is not comfortable in their own skin anymore. You know, the Trevor Project tells us always that gender-affirming care is key to not having these kids go think about killing themselves.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's happening more time than not. A kid is left alone to his own thoughts. He doesn't see himself represented anywhere. He sees laws being made against him, and they don't have the right capacity to differentiate this thing, and they make these horrible decisions of ending their lives because of these decisions that these grown-ass people are doing.
And it's just only because that they don't really know the whole extent of this, you know, that they don't want to educate themselves. They don't want to, you know, that they're all stuck in their own little houses and, you know.
Well, that's true with a lot of issues. If people don't see it and they don't want to bother to become educated, they stick with what they know. And oftentimes it's not much.
Very true.
Nico.
And it also just challenges the 14th Amendment as well, and how we just want just to be like ourselves, and having those people that, you know, that just take away things for the transgender community, it hurts a lot because they just want to be themselves. And so I think there needs to be a lot more empathy that goes within deciding what the next
Thanks.
rules are.
And I think that you hit it spot on. Also in our own community, we were talking about this before we started the show. No one here understands the trans experience. No one at this table is trans, right? But we will support our trans siblings as much as possible. And everybody out there has to do the same. You know, the trans community has this freaking target on their back. They're the lowest hanging fruit, and them and children are on the attack. You know, kids can't vote. You know, and they're made such an important part of this fighting, and it's just awful. I spoke to Max Fenning also, which everybody knows that he's the ED over at Prism, and he's just such an inspiration, man. That kid, you know, when he grew that mustache, I was so proud of him. And he said, you know, all people deserve access to the healthcare they need to live happily and healthily as their true and authentic selves. Even with the makeup of this court, we remain hopeful that the Supreme Court will protect the rights of transgender youth to keep these decisions between them, their parents, and their doctors. You know, I hope someone's listening. You know?
Thanks. And thanks for talking with them.